everyone, welcome to my webinar on PCOS, where I'm going to take a few minutes and answer some of the most common questions that I see in my office in regards to PCOS. So what are the root causes of PCOS? Is this actually just a hormone imbalance, or can I reverse the causes of PCOS so I can feel like myself again? So my story personally is I don't have a diagnosis of PCOS, but I can relate well to the patients who do. And the reason I say that is because at the age of 9, I failed a glucose tolerance test because I have a genetic SNP that makes me genetically insulin resistant. As a result, a different relationship with carbohydrates because my body does not play with them very well. This is basically the exact same underlying mechanism in PCOS that drives the syndrome forward. So this is probably one of the reasons that I care so deeply about helping women with PCOS, because it's a battle I've fought my whole life, and so I can feel and relate to how they're different and how they have to be different and behave different and have a different relationship with food, and when you're a young female, 16, 17, 18 years old, and all your friends are eating pizza and Oreos, and you're like, why can't I eat pizzas and Oreos? It can be kind of heartbreaking. So what exactly is PCOS? So PCOS, from a clinical perspective, is basically insulin resistance. And this insulin resistance is an inborn condition that we think that happens from a genetic SNP. How do you diagnose PCOS? You diagnose PCOS with something called the Rotterdam criteria. So with the Rotterdam criteria, you have got to have 2 of the 3 following criteria. One is irregular or absent ovulation. So how is this defined? You're going to have irregular periods. You're going to have cycles that are greater than 35 days or less than 21 days. You're going to have a condition called amenorrhea, in which periods are missed, and you could possibly have difficulty in getting pregnant. The second criteria is going to be signs of hyperandrogenism. So this can be acne, hirsutism, which is excess hair on the face, chest, or abdomen, or you could have male pattern baldness. You could also have elevated total and free testosterone on a lab, or an elevated DHEAS on a lab. You could also have polycystic ovaries on ultrasound. This is defined as an ovarian volume greater than 10 mils, or greater than or equal to 12 follicles that are 2 to 9 millimeters in at least 1 ovary. Now, what's important to understand that you only require 2 of these 3 criteria, so a woman with PCOS could not have polycystic ovaries. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is how that PCOS is more than just a hormone issue. And I have lots of patients walk in my door and they say, I think there's something wrong with my hormones. But what is actually driving the hormone issue is how your body is handling insulin. The ovaries are the only organ in the body that don't develop insulin resistance. And so when every cell in the body is needing more insulin to get the job done, and you're having elevated levels of insulin in the body, you're getting this hyperinsulinemia to the ovaries, which is causing them to produce excessive amounts of follicles. It can also cause a thickening of the ovarian stroma, which can make it difficult to ovulate. What's tricky about PCOS is it can look different in every woman. Now, one of the things that I don't like about the way that we do things out there is, when I diagnose someone with PCOS, it's almost like I've given them this terrible terminal diagnosis, and it's not that way at all. It just basically means they're going to have to just be more careful with their lifestyle choices, particularly their lifestyle choices around food. So what are some of the things that can contribute to not well-controlled PCOS symptoms? One is stress. And the reason stress is harmful in PCOS is because stress raises cortisol. Cortisol raises blood sugar. Elevated blood sugars raise insulin. Insulin worsens PCOS. So you've got to look at the big picture. Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you moving well? So let's talk a little bit about PCOS and supplements. So PCOS is one of the places in medicine that I feel like supplements play a really important role. And the reason being is you just cannot throw medicine at PCOS alone and get control. So whenever you go into your doctor, if you get a diagnosis of PCOS, they're going to offer you one of two options. They're going to offer you metformin, and then they're going to offer you and/or birth control. And the reason that they're going to do this is because they know if they shut down the cycle with birth control, you won't have PCOS symptoms. Also, they're going to offer you metformin for the underlying mechanism of insulin resistance. Some of the supplements that I really like when I'm working with PCOS is magnesium glycinate. And the reason being is that magnesium glycinate is really considered the better form of magnesium for people with PCOS due to its high bioavailability. It's gentle and effective. It's gentle on the stomach, and it has an impact on what's called the GLUT4 receptor, which can help with the insulin resistance. It's also excellent for anxiety, which is a big part of PCOS. It can help with sleep, and it increases insulin sensitivity, like I said before. The best form of magnesium glycinate are chelated forms of magnesium glycinate because it helps with their bioavailability. So other choices are mag citrate, which is not a very good choice. And the reason it is not a choice is because it's not well absorbed. It functions more as an osmotic, and it brings water into the colon, which can cause diarrhea in high doses or loose stool. So this is not something you want to play with. Another favorite of all supplements when dealing with PCOS is berberine. For a long time, I was on something called metformin, and I was on metformin for my insulin resistance, and I didn't really know about berberine. Now that I've learned more about functional medicine and I've learned to understand supplements better, I prefer a good high quality berberine over metformin. And the reason that I do is because metformin interferes with something called nutrient sensing pathways, which can cause your body to get deficient in B12 and CoQ10. I personally currently now use berberine and have had really good success with it. Berberine has had head-to-head trials with metformin. It's not as hard on the gut as metformin is, and it's also been shown to reduce androgens and restore ovulation. So if you have a choice between berberine and metformin, I think berberine outperforms metformin when it comes to PCOS. Berberine also can support weight loss and lipid metabolism. People with high insulin tend to have abnormal cholesterol profiles. So taking berberine can help with this. And it's also a natural antimicrobial, and it can work on enhancing the gut microbiome. And for those of y'all who follow and know anything about functional medicine, you know that the gut is the motherboard of our computer, and if you don't have a good healthy microbiome, you won't have a good healthy anything. So what are some of the benefits of berberine for PCOS? It helps with insulin resistance. It also activates something called AMPK. It lowers blood sugar, it lowers insulin, it can reduce testosterone, it can improve ovulation, it can promote menstrual regularity, it can aid in fat metabolism and weight loss, it can improve lipid profiles, and it helps balance the microbiome. Another supplement that I really love for PCOS is alpha lipoic acid. So alpha lipoic acid helps insulin resistant by stimulating something called a GLUT4 translocation receptor on the cell surface of your cells. So what does this mean in English? So it increases glucose uptake into the muscle and fat cell because it makes this GLUT4 receptor more receptive to insulin. Again, also alpha lipoic acid can activate AMPK, which is an anti-aging, for those of you who care, anti-aging gene that can help with insulin sensitivity and energy metabolism. It reduces oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. And, inflammation is the root of all evil. And it also helps protect our mitochondria. Mitochondria are what produce our energy in our body. Third, but certainly not least, is inositol. So not all inositols are created equally. And whenever you're working and treating PCOS, it's important that you consume two types of inositol. You need myo-inositol and you need D-chiro-inositol. So myo-inositol improves insulin sensitivity and helps restore ovulation. It's best for metabolic issues and fertility. D-chiro-inositol reduces androgens, also improves insulin signaling transduction, and it can help with hyperandrogenism such as the acne and the hirsutism or the overgrowth of hair. So let's talk food and lifestyle in relation to PCOS. Okay. Unfortunately, this is my story, so I relate. Unfortunately, you cannot control PCOS without eating a PCOS diet. I don't care how many supplements you take, how many birth control pills you're on, how much metformin you consume, you will drive your PCOS forward if you're not eating a PCOS friendly diet. So what does that look like? This is the same food plan that I give my menopausal women who have developed insulin resistance, and this is also the same food plan I give my diabetics, because all of these conditions have the same underlying mechanism, that's insulin resistance. So what do you want to do? You want to try, I call it my 50-50 rule, because that keeps it simple. You want to try not to eat anything with a glycemic index greater than 50. And you want to try not to consume more than 50 carbs per day. And you want all of your carbs to come from vegetables if possible. So you got to use a little bit of common sense here. So for example, if you look at the glycemic index of a blueberry and it shows that the glycemic index of a blueberry is 51, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's over 50, I can't have a blueberry. That's not accurate. You just know that it's a little bit higher than 50, but you have to be smart and say, you know what, blueberries are healthy foods, they're made by God, I just need to be mindful and consume a cup and not 2 gallons. And plus I've got to stay under 50 carbs a day, and and the higher the glycemic index, the faster and harder or quicker I'm going to hit my total glycemic load. So what your diet is going to primarily look like is it's going to be nuts and seeds, animal protein, healthy fats, and vegetables. You're going to eliminate things like bread, carb, refined sugar, pasta, because carbs are not your friend if you have PCOS. One of the things that happens in my clinic is women will walk in very sad and frustrated, and they're like, I've tried everything and nothing works and I'm getting worse. So what's happening, and the reason that this is happening is because they're really not hitting it from all perspectives. You've got to do stress management, because stress drives up cortisol, cortisol drives up insulin. Our blood glucoses and blood glucoses drive up insulin. You've got to sleep well. Not sleeping well can increase insulin resistance. Sleep is the body's reparative state. It's when your body repairs. You've got to be mindful of your diet. And like I said earlier, PCOS is one place that supplements are very important. So if you want this full protocol laid out, I've developed a PCOS guide. You just go to tonyalahatte.com/PCOS guide, and you can just grab the guide. It's totally free of charge. That will kind of help you navigate. And it is a food plan, my 50-50 rule, supplements that I recommend that I think are helpful in PCOS. And DM me Reset on Instagram if you actually want my personal help. I always invite questions. I love questions because that tells me, hey, if you have that question, there's a lot of other people who have that question, and that's a place out in the area of health that's not being properly addressed that I'd love to fill the gap. But thank you for watching me today. So if you like this content, share it with a friend, and as always, hit the subscribe button to follow me.